Wouldn't it be great if you could have your own pressure washing business without having a single employee? With his business, Accolades Pressure Washing, Alan Cox doesn't have one single employee and makes a stable $8,000 a month. In this UpFlip episode, we talked to Mr. Alan Cox about how he became so successful. The man went from McDonald's and now he has this huge rig that's one of the biggest in the country. I mean, take a look at this unit right here. This thing is huge and this is his money maker.
This is the largest machine in the United States and probably thereby by the world. I had one month that I made $100,000. This top one is 350 feet long and this is a 2,000 gallon tank. Once I can show the customer what I can do different and better, I always get them. I really have no competitors. I've never lost a customer. If I work for them once, I work for them from then on. The average job is probably around $2,400. But here's the heart. Pretty big generator, big enough to run a house. The potential for this truck alone, you could easily make all by yourself $250,000.
Wow. He's going to talk about how he's been in the business so long, how he pays attention to detail, and how he keeps his prices so nice that he can go home with a little bit of money in his pocket. He's going to show you all that today on this episode of UpFlip. Could you just give us a little background, introduce yourself, tell us how you got into the pressure washing business here?
Well, I started working with a couple of other big companies just as an employee. Found out I wasn't a good one. Decided that I would start my own business where I could be my own boss and troublemaker.
So what made you get into the pressure washing business? What was attractive about it?
Well, it's kind of fun to clean things and make a big difference. At the time when I first started back in 1985, it was a relatively new industry. And so to that extent, I was somewhat of a pioneer at that point.
Got you.
And so it just kind of grew well. And it's a job where you choose your own times. And it's a fun business from that point of view.
Absolutely. And from what we spoke about behind the camera, you had a pressure washing business before you started Accolade. Can you tell us about that? Yeah,
the first business was my first machine I built also. And it was about half this size.
Wow.
And it was big for the time. It's kind of an industry standard now. But this one is, twice the size of the industry standard.
What sets Accolades Pressure Washing apart from other pressure washing businesses?
Well, this is one of those areas where size matters.
All right.
And this is the largest machine in the United States and probably thereby by the world.
Wow.
You can't buy this, you have to build it.
Yeah.
So you need to have some mechanical background to do that kind of thing. It's a very simple machine if you look at it in sections, because all the pressure washers pretty much do the same thing. It just does it bigger.
Got you. And tell me this, how important is it to you for your business to be unique and stand out from other pressure washing companies and businesses?
Well, the unique thing is, again, the size is what dictates that. That's what I wanted to stand out for. I want to do commercial work only. I very seldom do anything that's not commercial.
What were some of the initial costs for you, and what did you invest in the very beginning just to kind of get up and running here?
Well, this machine, like I said, is my second machine, and it's more than twice as large as the first one. But this machine, I put about $86,000 in it.
Wow.
And I had to borrow against the house to do that. And it's been an excellent machine, but today it would cost more than twice that.
Wow, got you. So over time, the cost for something like this has...
Well, everything's gone up.
Everything.
Everything's gone up.
And of course, he's going to show us everything inside of his rig, his tools, the equipment that he uses that you could possibly invest in and use to start your pressure washing business. So make sure you stick around, because we're going to get to that in this episode. So, Mr. Cox, when it comes to profit margins, what kind of are we talking about for your specific pressure washing business and doing commercial work?
Well, what's nice about working for myself, I don't have workers' comp. I don't have to pay an employee something else.
Right.
I don't have to worry about somebody getting injured and I have to pay him when he's not working.
Very true.
I don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So my profit margin is really high, higher than most businesses. I charge about $200 an hour, and I've been doing that for a decade.
Oh, wow. wow.
It's time to raise that up.
Yeah, raise it up. Go ahead, raise it up.
But on the other hand, when it comes time to giving bids, once I can show the customer what I can do different and better, I always get them.
Got you. Okay.
So there's a real benefit to that. And I still make a really good money when I'm working.
Got you.
Yeah. I'm kind of winding down because I'm 67. So I don't go out and really beat the bushes for a lot of work. I wait for old customers to call me back.
Nice.
The money is great.
So from your $200 or $300 that you might charge initially, what will be your takeaway, your percentage you would say from that at the end of the day once, you know, the job's complete?
Yeah, I would say it's about 80% goes in my pocket.
Okay.
And then the rest is for maintenance and taxes and stuff like that.
Mr. Alan Cox is going to give us the insides, the outs of his huge rig. You heard him say it earlier. It's one of the biggest, if not the only biggest in the country, maybe the world. He's got a lot of equipment, a lot of tools in there, and now he's going to show us exactly what goes into this beast right here.
We'll start here at the end, and what's interesting about starting here is right here we have both the beginning and the end. Beginning meaning this is where water goes in. And so water can go two ways. This is an inlet hose, it's 250 feet long, and I can hook that up to a spigot or to a fire hydrant, either way. And then this is another way to fill it. I can hook it up to a fire hydrant with this fire hose, and then it goes in the side and it dumps into the hole here in the top of the tank. And this is a 2,000 gallon tank. And then when I'm done with the job, I can drain it by pulling this valve and it comes through that big drain. This is a chemical dispenser. This is a 25 gallon tank that I can put full strength chemicals in and then spray it with this little sprayer here. And then this is the outgoing, these two hose reels, and they're just two different lengths. This top one is 350 feet long, and it's on a 12 volt hose reel that'll pull it back in when I'm done. And this is a 200 foot long hose when I don't need that whole length.
What's your overhead like for this business that you have here? And what's your biggest monthly expense? You know, the thing that every month, you know, you always got to come out of pocket for, but it's essential to, you know, what you do.
Probably the biggest, and it's a roller coaster like the business is, that's the fuel.
Oh, right.
If I'm using full amount of hot water, I use 12 gallons an hour of diesel.
Oh, wow.
So that can be big. And without heating the water, I'm only using 1.25 gallons an hour. Okay. To run the pressure washer.
Gotcha.
But that does go up and down. And my fixed business insurance about $1,100 a year. Okay. Keeping this guy licensed. I pay mileage. This is a 33,000 pound truck. Wow. So it requires a commercial license to drive.
Gotcha, you gotta have that.
So the red plate cost me $400 a year. And then it's 6.5 cents a mile. Oh, wow. Okay. You pay that monthly. Got you.
How long did it take for you to even break even, just to, you know, make enough money to be okay?
With this one or the first one or both?
I will do this one, Accolades, okay. Yeah.
This one, of course it made money right away, but as far as getting to the point where it's paid the machine for, it probably took 2 years to pay for the machine.
Wow. For you, did that come quickly, or did that 2 years, you know, just drag along for you?
Well, the first few months dragged. Okay. But after that, it picked up pretty regular.
Yeah. And would you say there was a difference with those 2 years than when you had your first pressure washing business? Did that one take a little bit longer?
Yeah, you know, I wasn't that much different than everybody else with the first machine. Yeah. But this machine is just so different. Right. It's a different clientele. It's a different impression. Yeah. It does different work. Yeah. And I really have no competitors. So you may have noticed I have these lights here. I do a lot of work at night, and I have 20 of these lights around. Wow. And I'm able to power that with a 25 kilowatt generator that's in here. Wow. It's a pretty big generator, big enough to run a house. And I need the electricity One for the lights inside here, and then the burner part of this uses electricity. But here's the heart, and this is a Perkins diesel 4-cylinder engine. It's a 98 horsepower engine. It has its own governor, starts right up to 1800 RPM, and it stays there regardless of the load.
Wow.
So a lot of the little pressure washers, you hear them going back and forth with whether they're spraying or not. That doesn't do that. It just stays in 1 RPM.
Wow.
Then over here we have the 2 pumps that make the high pressure. They each one is 9 gallons a minute at 4,000 psi, and they run by hoses over to these water heaters. But underneath that, this is the generator, the 25 kilowatt generator. And here I just have a fuse breaker box for turning on my lights, and there's some plugs here. It's a 220 generator, so I have plugs in the back if I had to run a welder for some reason.
So let's get down to the brass tacks. Let's talk money. That's what people like to make, and we need, of course, to survive out here. Would you say monthly, what would you say a ballpark number your revenue is?
Again, it's somewhat seasonal.
Okay.
Summer months probably runs around 8,000.
Okay.
And then in the winter, if you talk about January, it's a good vacation time.
Right, yeah. And of course, you said it's seasonal, so in what month or what year do you think you made the most in a month during the summertime that was just ridiculous? It was like, crazy for you.
I had one month that I made $100,000, but that's just rare.
Oh my goodness.
You can't bank on that.
$100,000 in just 30 days. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had 2 big jobs back to back.
Okay.
They went faster than I thought they would.
Really?
I thought it was going to take me probably 3 weeks to do.
Okay.
Took me 3 days.
Wow.
And the bid initially was $80,000. And all my expenses worked up to about 11,000.
Wow.
So the rest of that job for 3 days was,
all pocket money.
All pocket money.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What's your average total invoice amount, and then also what are the profit margins that you're going to see off that invoice once the job is complete?
It's a wide range.
Yes.
The littlest thing I do is a graffiti job, and I kind of have a flat $300 rate just to go out and do that, plus chemical.
Okay.
So it's going to range from $312 to say $348, something like that. Those are the smallest things.
Okay.
And it's possible to have several of those in a day, but usually it's just one.
Okay.
And then you have the wild ones that we talked about that, they're just, $60,000, $70,000.
Right.
That you can't even count on them because they're just so rare.
Got you.
The average job is probably around $2,400, and that's something I can get done in a day.
Okay.
The profit on that, those are usually cold water jobs, so I'll probably have, $60, $70 in fuel.
Okay.
And then, I have all the other stuff like insurance and stuff that's yearly cost.
Right.
That you need to put that in there, but they really are small over the period of a year.
Got you.
Yeah.
So out of the 2,400, you'll take home about
22 at least.
Okay. Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yep, not bad at all.
These are water heaters. Inside each one of these is 480 feet of Schedule 80 pipe. It's coiled up in coils that get smaller and smaller inside, so then it's pretty small in the center. And what happens here is, underneath here is an oil burner, much like an oil burner that might heat a house, only it's a bigger nozzle, because each one of these will use 6 gallons an hour, each one of them. And so there's this big flame that shoots up to the center of it. And this is just an exhaust pipe to let all that out. And so it heats the water as it travels that 480 feet. So I can heat 18 gallons a minute instantly to boiling, and I carry enough fuel to do that for 36 hours nonstop.
Wow.
And there's just a simple dashboard over here that tells me about the motor, tells me the RPM and water temperature and fuel, how many hours it's run. These little bulbs are kind of strange things most pressure washers don't have. If you've ever run a pressure washer, you probably feel it shake. Well, that's because there's 3 little pistons in here that are pumping the water, and they make individual surges. These take that surge and even it out. So they're filled with nitrogen, and then there's a kind of a bladder in there that fills up or collapses depending on what it needs to equalize that surge. And the advantage to that is it keeps things from wearing that were taking that vibration.
Wow.
Along with your hands and everything else that was taking the vibration.
Yeah.
It takes all that out.
What's the best way to bring in new customers, and how have you kept customers with your pressure washing business?
Well, I started in a number of different things.
Okay.
My biggest client was a school district.
Oh.
And the way I started with them is they had a community service day.
Okay.
And I volunteered to do that.
Wow.
So the guy that ran the maintenance came out and he was just really surprised because I had done this huge courtyard that usually takes him a week, and I did it in 4 hours.
Wow.
And that impressed him.
Yeah.
And so I've been working for him exclusively the last 14 years.
Wow.
And I find that because of the machine and because I do great work,
Yeah.
and I always try to find something extra to do they didn't know was coming.
Right.
I've never lost a customer. If I work for them once, I work for them from then on.
Wow.
So as far as advertising goes, if I was starting today, the most important thing for a startup is a great website.
Okay.
And you need to keep control of it yourself, where you can add videos and change them. And partially because it's interesting, and the other part is Google likes you best.
Okay.
If you change things, they keep you up in front.
Got you. So for commercial pressure washing, why is a rig like this necessary? Like, why do you need all of this here?
The main thrust is, of course, the size and the speed, and that I don't need employees to do the work of, 4 or 5 guys.
Right, right.
And then, like, the hugeness, like up here, the top reel is 350 feet long.
Oh my goodness.
That lets me park the truck in the middle and work 700 feet.
Right.
And I don't have to stop and reposition and all that. So it's a time saver.
Yeah.
Same thing with this hose inlet. I have this 2,000 gallon tank, which sounds like a lot, but when you're shooting 18 gallons a minute, it only lasts about an hour.
Oh, wow.
So you need to be able to consistently replenish it. Most places can't give you 18 gallons a minute unless you're hooked to a fire hydrant.
Gotcha.
Which you can do with this. You can hook this up to a fire hydrant and fill this tank up in 5 minutes.
Wow.
But it fills the tank up, and even if you don't have 18 gallons a minute, it really slows down the emptying of the tank. And this is 250 feet long, so I can be quite a ways away from the closest spigot.
Do you maybe have a business where you're using your car, or do you put a lot of miles on your personal car? If so, check out our new sponsor, InfoCar. Here's how it works. InfoCar is a small device. You're going to put it right under your dashboard, and it's going to give you all the data and information regarding your car. It's going to help you keep it nice and healthy and maintained, even in dangerous situations. Now, how can you get it? Just check out the description right below this video. There's a link to Amazon and at UpFlip. We trust InfoCar. As you mentioned your website, have you had it all the years you've been in business, or at a certain point you said, I need to have a website now because that's the thing?
I started one right away.
Okay.
I used a local company, and so that turned out to be, local's good, but in my case it turned out bad because it was a husband and wife team, and they divorced.
Oh, man.
And so I can't get into it.
Right, yeah.
You want to be sure you have access to make changes yourself, even though you don't know how. You want to be sure that you can.
Yes.
So that if you want to say you just want to change your price, or you want to take one picture out and put another picture in, you don't want to have to pay somebody to do that.
And would you say the majority of your business comes from people going to your website?
Not anymore.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's important to start with.
Right.
And it's important if you're still looking for more customers.
Okay.
The customer loyalty is phenomenal with this equipment and what I do.
They stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, like right now, I do very little advertising, mostly because I'm wanting to wind down at 67.
Yeah.
And I stay as busy as I want to be busy.
Yeah.
The potential for this truck alone, you could easily make all by yourself $250,000.
Wow.
Free and clear.
Yeah. Easily.
But it comes down to advertising.
Right. You've mentioned a lot of your clients hear about you from previous clients.
Yeah.
How does that work for you? And are you asking for referrals, or does this just happen naturally?
The referral thing kind of comes naturally. I don't ask for it.
Okay.
I probably should, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, people talk about this machine because it's spectacular.
It definitely is.
Yeah. And so if you have like a meeting of people that are property managers, they will talk to each other.
Okay.
So that's helpful.
Gotcha.
School district people that manage the property, yeah, no, they don't talk to each other.
Gotcha.
It just depends on what it is.
Yeah.
So as far as getting word of mouth out, it's a small thing. Maybe it could be bigger if I pushed it.
Yeah.
But I don't do it.
Got you.
I like to be able to select who I go to. I don't want somebody talking about this great machine and then the first thing they think is, yeah, I need my driveway cleaned. I don't want that.
Yeah, no, yeah, you don't want that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want the big stuff.
I want the big stuff.
Yeah.
So it's best just to look for those and go talk to them. And then we come back here, and the tools that you use every day, all the time, are these right here. And this is called a surface cleaner.
Got you.
This was originally made by a company called Steel Eagle.
Okay.
I had to remake everything. The only parts that are original is this handle and this piece of metal right here.
Oh, got you.
Everything else I've changed.
Okay.
And because of the size of the machine, the original ones are made with stamped aluminum. They're about an 1/8 inch thick.
Okay.
This one's a 1/2 inch thick.
Got you.
The reason that I needed the weight, the factory one, when I hooked it up to my machine, it became a flyer.
Oh, wow.
It was going up.
Okay.
So I had to have a heavy one so it'll stay on the ground.
Yeah.
And so I had this custom made out of 1/2 inch aluminum, custom wheel. These are solid rubber tires. The original ones were pneumatic. They go flat and then you have a bad day. So these are the kinds of things, and one is you learn along the way. But this is specific for this machine because it's huge.
Got you. And what would you say the price range is for these right here?
To buy this the way it was originally, when it was too small for me,
Yeah.
They were about $1,400.
Okay.
I've got twice that in this one.
Okay. How have you grown everything? Because you're the owner, you're the operator, you do it all. How have you been able to do that, yourself?
You're not going out 9 to 5 like everybody else.
Right.
So those days you're not working, you go out again and you look for work to be done, and you find out who controls that.
Right, yeah.
And you talk to them, you leave a card, and you hope they call you someday. The other thing to do is I've partnered with another pressure washing company that has a lot of little machines, and they do a lot of residential. And when he gets a call to do something big, he either hires me to do it for him under his name, or I work with him.
Wow.
And that's a tough thing to get into, because you really have to trust each other not to steal each other's clients.
Right, yeah.
So you have to be honest, both sides.
Yeah, and it's been working for you guys.
And it works great as far as getting, jobs that he can't do or can't do alone.
Yeah.
And then he brings me in.
And would you advise others? You think that could work for them as well?
Oh, yeah, it works for anybody. Because I still get the calls for the house, and I say, well, I don't do it, and I tell them why.
Yeah.
And I said, but here's the guy I really suggest, and I give him his phone number.
Nice.
Yeah, so it works back and forth.
Yeah, great teamwork.
It is.
All right, guys, now it's time for the Blitz questions. Just 5 really quick questions we're going to run through with Mr. Cox. Mr. Cox, are you ready?
I hope so.
All right. First question. Was there any point in time when you thought about going back to any old jobs and quitting the business?
No, nothing I've done before.
Okay. Nothing before this. Good answer. What would your ultimate business superpower be if you could have one?
I wish I had one. It was sales.
Sales. Okay.
Sales is the most important thing.
There we go. If you could be the CEO of any company that you like, which company would it be?
General Motors.
Okay, General Motors. That's not a bad one. That's a good one. What is one thing that you cannot start your day without except coffee?
I usually start with nothing.
Okay, gotcha. Oxygen.
I just go to work. Yeah.
There we go. Self-starter. And then last one, number 5. What is one quality in a client that is an instant deal breaker for you that you will not work for them?
They ask for a discount.
Okay. Yeah. No discounts.
No discounts.
You heard the man straight from the source. No discounts. So as you mentioned, for commercial work, I'm just curious, why is it better to have a bigger rig? Why is bigger better in this business?
Well, roughly, When you're doing volume, you look at the gallons per minute you put out. Every time you double that, you quadruple the work you can get done with it. And that's why I can do the work pretty easily of 4 people with a commercially made machine that's always much smaller than this.
Gotcha.
And there's certain things that become important. Rinsing is the biggest part of the job. Cleaning it off is just a simple function of pressure.
Okay.
And of course, the more volume, the faster that goes.
Right, right.
But now you have a bunch of sediment or gravel or whatever you moved around and you have to rinse it off. Otherwise, you're leaving a mess. And the volume is rinsing. And that's you kind of imagine how much faster you can go with a fire hose and a garden hose.
Right, yeah.
And this is a fire hose.
Got you.
And rinsing is important because you want to leave the job looking good. Anything you leave that looks bad, that's what they remember about the job.
Right.
Those are the details that get you callbacks.
Got you. So volume is key.
Volume is a big importance. It's probably the most important, just for the rinsing point of view.
Okay.
It takes as long or longer to rinse the mess you've made than it does to make the mess.
Got you. Volume.
Yes.
That's it. What else we got here?
Well, this is probably the most common thing associated with pressure washing.
Gotcha.
And that's just, the spray gun.
Yep.
Then the interchangeable nozzles, you can pull these nozzles off and change them.
Okay.
This piece of aluminum pipe here, 1/2-inch aluminum pipe, I carry the stuff to thread new ones and make new ones right here in the truck.
Oh, got you.
And this one is never a problem. But when we go to the other nozzle, this is called a turbo nozzle.
Wow, that looks like a turbo nozzle right there.
And what this does, it puts all the spray into a straight stream, but then it rotates like this.
Oh, wow.
And that just chews things off. The reason that these can be a problem is because of the vibration of spinning.
Okay.
And that vibration transfers up to here and breaks the pipe right there.
Oh, wow.
So what I've done here, this little piece is sacrificial because when this breaks off, there's no way to get it out. And you don't want that into the gun because this gun's almost $200.
Got you. Okay. Now, would you say because you're doing commercial, it's essential for you to have 2? Or no, maybe somebody who's doing residential pressure washing, they might only need 1 of these bad boys here?
People with little pressure washers don't have a problem with that.
Oh, okay.
They're just too small to make enough volume to hurt anything. That's just the way that, I mean, I don't mean to brag about the size, but those are just the facts.
Right, but when you're doing commercial work, you need something heavy duty.
It's all about speed.
Yeah.
You want to get done and move on.
Got you. In the future, do you have an idea of what you might sell this thing for down the line when you're, really done? Or
I would sell it one of 2 ways. The machine by itself for about $85,000.
Okay.
Machine and business just for another 10 on top of that.
Wow. Yep, just like that.
Yeah, the thing about pressure washing is you can sell your business, but you have no guarantee those clients are going to stay with you. They hire on to me because of the machine.
Right, yeah.
But they don't know the next guy coming in.
Right, exactly.
Now, he's got an in because he's got the biggest machine in the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
And as long as you do good work, you're honest, you do what you say you're going to do or a little more, you'll retain them.
Absolutely. And do you see yourself, say, when you eventually do sell this in the business, that's when you'll go into just, creating big monsters like this and selling them, just for the fun?
I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
I'll build one, see if it sells. If it doesn't, then I won't do that.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, you got to test it out just to make sure.
Yeah, I'd like to sell them to the military.
Yeah. I'm sure they'd have a use for it.
Oh, they do. They clean jets.
Yeah.
They clean, helicopters, ships. They clean all kinds of things. And right now they're stuck with the little stuff.
Right.
They can't get one of these.
Yeah.
They don't know they exist.
They have a need for something like this right now. Based on your current business right now and all the success you've had, if you had to go and get a brand new client today, you're going into that office, what are you telling them to earn their business going forward?
Well, to start with, I would drive around and find a place that needs cleaning.
Okay.
Then I'd ask around, usually they're tenants that are in the warehouses. You find out who owns and controls it.
Okay.
Then you go to that office and you explain what you do. And I kind of enjoy telling them I have the largest pressure washer in the United States, probably the world.
Wow.
And I'm specifically set up to do this kind of commercial work.
Right.
And I have great experience at it.
Yeah.
And that usually lets them listen.
Yeah.
The odds are you're not going to hear anything from them right away. People are busy doing their business.
Right.
And now you've talked to them about how messy their business is.
Yeah.
Now it's in their mind.
They're thinking about it.
When they walk out of their business, get in their car, they go, oh yeah, that does look terrible. You know, where's that guy's card?
Yeah.
You know, and then that's how things get started.
We've had a great time out here. You've showed us, you know, how everything works, you know, what you've been doing over the last, you know, almost 20 years to be successful in business. And, you know, we really appreciate it. Our viewers out there, they've got a nice inside look at the biggest rig in the country and maybe the world.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it at this scale, but at least they've learned something.
Yeah.
So, you know, we definitely appreciate it. And,
Sure.
you know, thank you, sir.
Hey, well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. And as always, for UpFlip, I'm Justice Rogers. Guys, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, you like this video, and you hit the bell icon so you get the notifications for our next drop. For UpFlip, I'm Justice Rogers.